Okay. Hello, everyone. Journeying through a late night exhaustion. Like a train that cannot stop. What are the immortal expectations of the temporary, of temporary bodies? What do physical entities want from what they consider to be a world? What is the world really? One thing I found very abundant in life is all the different ways that you can become privileged to look at it. There is so many ways to look at life that to extract meaning from a single moment seems as if too small of an endeavor. But because we're creatures that appreciate life in the moment, what did the great mind do once all thoughts had been said? It's as if all that is left is to dance. Peace is the final mission after all the missions. When I wonder about the immortal expectation of temporary bodies, it's as if I'm noticing something very interesting happening, in the sense that some sort of biological program cultivated an awareness to self. And what that means is intelligence planted its first flag, as itself. When I look at most human beings, I see what they are creating rather than what they are. There's a component to our life which is what we're being, and then there is what we're doing with what we're being. Something that the human species has bestowed upon itself is an ability to categorize reality. The strange thing is, we are a physical entity, we are looking outside, but what the world means is not physical. So what this means is there's a physical appreciation of reality, but there is also a non-physical appreciation. It's like the meaning of life is not physical because we are not only physical. you know because if we were physical, we would, if we were just physical, we wouldn't need to live behind our eyes. It took me a while to kind of pinpoint it, but I'm under the understanding that it's as if, imagine a vertical and a horizontal world collided. Only in one instance of time these two worlds have relevance. Imagine two intersecting planes. Like planes, I mean, geometrically speaking. So in one reality, it's a physical game. And the physical game requires us to hunt, to gather, and to endure as long as we can. That's really the physical game. But when we wonder about the non-physical intervention upon reality, the non-physical game, it's as if it's not just enough to exist. Something needs to happen with this existence or for this existence. And so that's really where I'm interjecting myself, into, I guess, human consciousness. What I'm trying to convey is that the body is an object, or a collection of objects, let's say cells. But the mind seems to be a collection of all the subjects we've had, but what we are conscious of is like the tip of the iceberg. So right now, think of it this way. Conscious human life is sponsored by the totality of everything of existence, but specifically, it's as if like when there is no human being, you have a universe. When there is a human being, you have a specific universe. And so in the specificity, what I mean is that there's like, we cannot ignore that an object was so bored that it had to create versions of itself extended into abstract time. Like right now, as I'm talking to you, it's as if yesterday life had a meaning. Today it has a meaning. Tomorrow it will have a meaning. It's as if I know what life meant yesterday, perhaps. I may know what life means now. But to know what life means in the future, it's kind of like you need to be done with the past and the present. Human beings have a body, objects. We have a mind, deals with subjects. There is something to us that is aware of the object and subject, and how the object and subject happens. If we are conscious of it, it turns into reference. you know There was a time where, in an act of prayer, I requested from the universe a sign. I opened up a holy book, and in the book it said the signs are everywhere. And for the first time, the idea arose that what am I trying to see in my expectation, and what is actually there prior to me having some sort of inner model overlaid upon reality. Uh, the immortal expectations of the temporary is literally pointing to this view that we are objective organisms, biological organisms, but we have a psychological aspect to how we contain our existence. And so it seems to be not the life of just a physical being. It seems to be that there's a mode of life where it's really physical consequence. That means imagine there's a physical cause, physical effect. But now imagine there is a physical cause, physical effect in the realm of the body. When we come into the mind, we don't know the non-physical cause, but we do see the non-physical effect, which is how the psyche shapes itself up. I'm under the impression that the personality, that the ego, the sense of self, has no other purpose other than to continue. Continuity for a shaped entity is immortality. That means imagine a being that did not stop. It's kind of like my body is just here, it is my mind that finds a value for the body. It is my mind, my vision that gives meaning. A part of us never wants to end. The mind doesn't want to end. The body has to. And ultimately, there will be some force left that ushers forth. The mystery of life is beyond the sky of demise. All right, let's take this somewhere. Immortal expectations of the temporary. Temporary organisms, they have a certain time to express themselves. In that time, the quality of their expression matters, but their quality of their expression is, in some sense, being sculpted by life's experiences. It's as if the world knows what it needs, and if we are conscious, we go there. What could the immortal expectations be? It could be that we don't want the biology to end. We want human beings to exist till the end of time. The immortal expectation could be that we would like something of the human mind to continue. So pretty much it's either we want objects to continue, either we want subjects to continue, or we want the space for manifestation to remain. So really, when we look at this world, we got to ask ourselves, what is death really? Because it seems to be a space where forces are moving, and if an energy cannot be created or destroyed, it's changing form to form. It's kind of like there's this one core energy that is experiencing itself endlessly. Do you know, imagine like a rock being thrown at a pond and it's like skipping endlessly on the surface. You know, the human being can't be even considered just an individual because of how much it extracts its individualism from a separation from its space. That means we find ourselves in the activity of the world. Because we can separate ourselves from that activity, we are an individual. And by the fact that we can separate ourselves, the individual exists. It's kind of like consciousness. is like an objective program's way of creating a subjective program. And so it's kind of like the human body is like the caterpillar, the mind is like the cocoon, and what in some sense moves beyond these is like the butterfly. The butterfly has no relevance to the cocoon, to the caterpillar. And really, the butterfly is an example of a creature that completely transforms to adapt to its environment differently, as if first there is legs to walk on leaves, then there is wings to, in some sense, fly between them. And so, really, what we journey through, I find the next phase is we, in some sense, fly through. So, what we were walking through, afterwards, we fly through. And the sky we fly through, we become. How many human beings have walked through unknown doors, have entered new experiences? Every day, every night we go to sleep, every day we wake up, and we don't fear the conscious return from the unconscious. We don't fear how existence expresses itself energetically from a position where it doesn't exist to itself. What does that mean? That means our body is existing from the beginning of our birth till now, but our mind suddenly goes conscious, unconscious, conscious, unconscious, conscious, unconscious. And so what it means is that our intelligence is dualistic. It means that the mind is working through dualism. It means that the reason a mind exists is because there was something more than a body. And a body meant that existence was just existing, and experience meant it began moving. So the movement of existence that in some sense becomes processed either by memory, by the brain, or in some sense is consciously received by is witnessed by the mind. There is something here within all beings that knows it is being. And then what the mind does with its energy is that it wonders how else it can shape it for the road ahead. Your eyes need to see further than your existence, and then your experience is somewhere to fly to. Human beings choose. They choose to be the eagle on the branch, or they choose to be the eagle that watches the whole sky, or they are very wise and they are both at different times. You might not believe it, but there will come a time where reality must be let go. There will come a moment where the eyes will wander from this branch towards what branch do I fly? And imagine there was a bunch of eagles on a tree and nobody built a nest. Consciousness was existing in the human form, and the human form acted so small in a world that was waiting for it. You see, I think sometimes the problem is that the humility that comes to the ability for consciousness to transcend, that humility is internal. That means there needs to be a combination of external boldness and internal humility. Meaning that internal humility means that the brain suddenly accepts that it cannot see so much. And then there's a moment where you're left alone with whatever your intelligence is. You know, there was a time where I disliked humans. I disliked the biological human organism, not because of what it was, just because of how much of life it was missing out. You know, it's one thing to not have the opportunity to do something, but then it's another of having the opportunity to do something and then not doing it. As these lectures are focused on the idea of ushering forth an advanced civilization. It's as if our species had an ability to advance and it didn't. That is a very tragic failure. There's 8 billion human beings. What is most of our activity going to? It's like mobility. We're moving a lot. And then there's organization. Pretty much we move, we organize. We move, we organize. We move, we reorganize. So really, this is a world where those with an ability to organize experience find it a smooth, you know, ride. And those who do not dare to look at the world in a way that only their eyes can, you miss out. You know, you miss out on who you were in a world that was, waiting for new elements. Everybody is behaving like an immortal because the fear of death makes it so. So imagine there were 8 billion organisms that had immortal expectations. What would their immortality, their attempt towards immortality be like? First attempt to create something that doesn't stop. then in some sense making sure it doesn't stop, and then making sure it doesn't end. What I mean by this is that a sort of start, a beginning, a maintaining, and an ending. Existence has began. The human species is in some sense developing itself. It's kind of bizarre, but there is a mind to nature that is different than how the human mind acknowledges itself. You can say humans are a simulated life force. Really what it is you're moving your body, like the human consciousness has an ability to feel the temperature of its body, to feel its stillness, to feel its weight, to feel in some sense the scars and the healing. And so the mind doesn't know what it wants. Because if our minds have an immortal expectation, they do not understand that what if immortality is endlessly walking in one room when there are other rooms? Sometimes to me, immortality is like a horizontal line, eternity is like a diagonal line that's ever ascending. It's like what contacted the Iron Man suit never touched Tony Stark. It moved him, but it didn't touch him. There is something about what we consider to be what is looking through the mind, that in some sense it exists, but existence cannot touch it. A person's body can be influenced, but in some sense the idea of a person, that is in the domain of abstraction. It is planted in a space that's untouchable. What that means is how I see myself is such a private endeavor that if anyone else saw me like how I see myself, they would be me. Do you understand? There's a privacy to our eyes. There's a way we are separate in the same world. So the immortal expectations can vary. What that means is like existence was so intelligent that it was in some sense like, all right, I'll keep a constant the biological program, but I'll in some sense imbue randomity. Consciousness is a multi-dimensional presence of being. And the dimensions are all part of one event. That means it's like a human being goes through so many different events in their life, so many senses of self, but we say, yo, that's that person's life. And when we look at our own life, pretty much we wake up and it's a sort of sequence of decision making. Find a type of life that manifestation does not need to be ashamed of what it can do. Sometimes for me, an advanced civilization, the development of an advanced civilization is literally like one factor points to where all can go, and if all can see where they can go, they go. The human consciousness is seeking for something better. It just has to feel secure about it. So in some sense, imagine in 100 years, the advanced humanity is awakened on Earth. Human beings do not fear death because how they contribute to life can be everlasting. We're trying to echo ourselves beyond our time. And what really our legacy is how much we cared for the world while we were in it. And the whole history will either hear it. If you truly cared, perhaps the future will know you. And if you, in some sense, were not worthy, then you, in some sense, dissolve. You fade into the abyss. The idea behind immortal expectations of the temporary means that the temporary is not satisfied with the temporary. It is not enough for an object to just be an object. It requires a story that transcends its own life so it can have something to walk towards, to go ahead. So your mind is your future life, accessible in accordance to the past patterns and present patterns considered. And all I'm saying is, as the ancient saying goes, when I point to the stars, do not stare at my finger. When I point to the advanced humanity, it's the potential of all human beings that will ever exist. That's the greatness of humanity. It's as if we are all performers, in a space that the greatest authority watches. And if the world was alive before we could die, how could we? You either breathe as an objective being, as a subjective being, as a cosmic being, or you understand the scope of your knowledge and you accept the moment that your life force is attending. For beyond the void, the smile of the infinite awaits. A truth that cannot be touched, for it was everywhere at once. Beyond the immortal expectations of the temporary were never temporary. Thank you for listening.